Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us for another session of The Sacred Wound as a Portal to Your Awakening, where you will learn from incredible teachers, spiritual mentors, astrologers, mystics, mediums, shamans and healers, psychologists and authors with a world of knowledge, gifts and talents ready to share with you to help you on your spiritual and healing journey. My name is Charlie Giles and I am honoured to be your host for this powerful wisdom sharing event. Today's session, we are talking to a very special guest, Jocelyn Starfeather. Jocelyn is a visibility and thought leadership coach for visionary entrepreneurs. She's a spiritual alchemist, sacred site retreat facilitator, astrologer, and founder of Sacred Planet. She shares shamanic and ancient wisdom to guide courageous seekers in co-creating a revolutionary new world in alignment with Mother Earth and the vast intelligence of the cosmos. After a successful 15-year corporate career working in finance for major multinational companies, Jocelyn was thrust into a deep spiritual awakening. It was that awakening which turned her life upside down, and from where she emerged with a powerful understanding of how to use her intuition and healing abilities, aspects of herself that she'd never even accessed before. She dove deeply into earth-based and shamanic practices and has studied alongside elders and wisdom keepers ever since. She has extensively studied ancient civilizations, especially cultures where the goddess held a strong presence. And she's spent a profound and life-changing time in the ancient temples and pyramids of Egypt, where she guides annual spiritual tours. Jocelyn blends alchemy, astrology, hermeticism, ancient and indigenous wisdom, and a magical shamanic perspective to coach and guide visionary entrepreneurs, revolutionaries, and change makers all around the world. Her mission is to help people break free from everything that has held them back so they can joyfully offer their highest contribution to our collective future. Please welcome Jocelyn Starfeather for today's topic, the fierce Egyptian warrior goddess Sekhmet, lighting our way through chaos and destruction. Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for including me in your beautiful and super powerful event. It's truly here.
Definitely. And thank you so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to this presentation of yours. I really want to dive in and have people have a bigger understanding of Egyptian powers and goddess. Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. As I was telling you, I have so much to share about this topic.
The hardest part will be keeping it to our session, but we'll see how we go. I guess the best place to start off with is, who is the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet?
Yes, absolutely. And I would love to share some slides with everybody here, just so you can see whenever I'm sharing about Egypt, I love to share the images because the images say literally a million words, or so much more than the words can even convey. So let me share this. And there we go. So here she is, this really powerful lioness goddess. And I'll just say briefly here as a background in history, the lion, we see the lion, or sometimes it's the leopard, it can be the jaguar, it can be the tiger, depending on your culture, but the very strong feline presence is almost always a symbol of the feminine. And it's this fierce version of the feminine, right? Like the fierce love of the mother. And so that is the case with Sekhmet. She is the fierce mother. And as is the case with our most ancient perception of the mother, when we go back to the Neolithic times and even the Paleolithic times, the mother was always equal parts creation and destruction. Because this is the natural order of the universe, right? The womb that births us is also this ever compassionate, loving presence that welcomes us back into the oneness at the end of life, right? So this was the most ancient understanding of the mother, and she represents this in such a powerful way. So in ancient Egypt, we see that Sekhmet, who has another name as well, which is Mut, and I'll speak about that in a little bit. She rules war, pestilence, and healing. It's quite an interesting combination, right? She is also associated with strength, courage, and anger, but anger as a portal to truth, not anger just for the sake of rage, right? But that rage or that anger that can bring us to our deep, deep subconscious inner knowings that are true, that we hold within. And the fierceness of love. Love is such a strong force in our world. Love conquers all, as they say. And so there is a deep fierceness there, even though it can feel gentle at times. It can be very fierce, very courageous at times as well. Now, when we see Sekhmet in her standing form, in the statues and in the imagery in ancient Egypt, this is the fierce warrior version of her. And when we see her in her seated form, she is known as the goddess Mut. And this is the feminine who is seated in her power. And she doesn't even need to take action. Just by her consciousness, just by her beingness, she can command all things, right? So Mut is this other very powerful side of the goddess Sekhmet. So this just says a little bit more about that concept of the Great Mother in the early goddess cultures that I mentioned, right? That she not only helps with birthing and giving life, but she's also the Dark Mother. She also brings us back into the womb so that we can be reborn. And this is really important to the concept of Sekhmet, because there are a lot of stories of Sekhmet in the mythology where she's destroying everything. She's just like, at one point, she's gone into her stage of rage and she's destroying all of humanity. But there's a reason for it, right? And there's a mythological lesson to be learned from it. And so she truly carries this energy of both creation and destruction. This is a really beautiful hieroglyph of birth at the top right here that we found in the Temple of Komombo, which was a healing hospital. And a very alchemical hospital, I will say, not like the hospitals we have today. This was actually known as one of the great centers of medicine in ancient times. Now, in that, I'll say a few more words about that too. Actually, in Komombo, many of the priests and priestesses who were the doctors, because people were not just doctors at that time. The doctor was also a shaman and a priest or priestess, right? Those three were really all considered the same role because all of those skills were needed in order to heal. And so the priests and priestesses of that temple were most commonly priests and priestesses of Sekhmet, because she rules over both pestilence and illness as well as healing. Now, Sekhmet, as it says here, was equally as feared as she was honored. There was a great reverence to her, that the people held this great reverence to her because she could create plagues and disease. She could wipe everybody out if she chose to. But because she had those powers of destruction, she also holds the keys to healing. And as I was mentioning, many healers and doctors were priests and priestesses of Sekhmet. This is an image from Komombo as well. Lots of imagery of her there. Now, interestingly, Sekhmet and Hathor, who you see at the top of the screen here, were originally the same goddess. And this goddess could wear two different faces or personas depending on the situation. So Sekhmet was the warrior version, the fierce and fiery version of Hathor. And Hathor is very much like the planet Venus, for example, very, very Taurasian, really ruling over love and beauty and sensuality and movement in the body and the earth. So over time, those two goddesses became differentiated in the mythology. This is a really beautiful image of Sekhmet that can be found at Philae Temple, and she has the sun disk on her head. So that is the sun, that is the highest consciousness, and you can see there is a cobra coming out of the top. So this is the cobra extending out of the crown chakra, representing that connection to the great above, the top of the Kundalini life force in the body. Now, we have this incredible place that is called the Precinct of Mut that's located near Karnak Temple in Egypt. And this is a really big area where you can go and you will find these statues of Mut, the seated Sekhmet, in all different levels of repair or destruction, which is interesting with the whole creation and destruction theme. Some of these are very whole and all in one piece. Some of them, as you can see, are just, very much destroyed. So we have found about 600 of these statues near Karnak. And actually, I think about 40 or 50 more were just discovered in a whole new section that they started excavating, which is interesting. Now, what is believed is that there were originally 730 of them, which would be 2 for each day of the year. And this was because during the reign of Amenhotep III, there were ceremonies every morning and every evening to honor and appease Sekhmet. And he wanted to have a separate Sekhmet for every day and every 2 ceremonies a day. Now, some of the ones that were discovered in the very best condition have been sent out to museums all around the world. So it's really cool because almost any major city that you're in, you can go to the Egyptian section of the local museum and you can sit with Sekhmet and you can be with her. So I highly recommend that in your local area. And yes, she is truly the great mother. And I mean, you can just feel her power here, right? And she is incredibly powerful. This particular statue is really tall. This is me with her at one point last year, and you can see how tall this was. It's quite amazing and quite powerful. And she has this particular one has a ring. I believe it is 12. It's either 12 or 14 cobras around the crown of her head, and she's holding an ankh in her left hand, which is symbolic, the ankh held on the feminine side. Now, this is an extremely powerful statue that is considered by the local guards and the people who are, local to this area at Karnak. This statue is considered to be still living. And this is in a chapel that you can't just walk into at any time. You need an appointment to go in and be with her. You're not allowed to touch her. They have, they really closely guard this statue because it's so precious and it's so powerful. And so this is in the Sekhmet chapel at Karnak. So this version of her is just incredibly powerful. And when you go and visit with her, you can stand right in front of her and just look into her eyes, and you feel her looking back into your eyes, and she will send you messages. You can ask her anything you want. So maybe if we have time later, we can do a meditation where we'll go visit with her. She delivers really powerful messages. Now, the last piece that I want to share here that's really important about Sekhmet is this relationship with her to the other goddesses, Pele and Kali, right? And this eruptive force and cycles of destruction that are necessary to bring us back into a place of creation, because we are very, very much in that place in our world right now where we're seeing so many things falling apart, so many pieces of our lives just falling down, pieces of the mainstream world around us just collapsing, because it's time to make room for something new. Now, this can feel extremely painful. This can be really scary, and the thing is that Sekhmet is such a wonderful guide for us during these rapidly changing times and during dark nights of the soul. Because this is birthing energy, and it's this continual cycle of death and rebirth into new life, right? That is so important for us to welcome actually into our lives, to not run away from, but to actually move toward it, to actually embrace it, because then we can learn so much, we can transform so deeply. And it's important to know that this time of great change, this time of destruction, is not permanent. But it's very explosive, it's very eruptive, it's very intense. It includes rapid and sudden changes, but it's all creating space for higher possibilities and new types of growth and expansion to take place as we go forward. So one question here from Sekhmet is there an eruption which you need to create or allow to take place in your life so that you can evolve and grow in a new way? And Sekhmet wants you to know that she will support you in this. And she's constantly reminding us just how powerful we truly are. So this is a message that I got from Sekhmet at one point. Things are only impossible until they are not. Right? And so whatever you might be facing in your life that feels impossible, that's been a problem that you have not been able to solve, something you have just not been able to figure out how to work with it or how to approach it in a good way, work with Sekhmet, because she will show you what is possible. And because she is this force of destruction and creation, if there's something you need to change in your life, especially if it has seemed impossible to change, and if you're truly ready to welcome that change in, speak with her about it. She will help it to happen. She might need to break some things down for you, as she has done for me, but she will come to your aid, and she will help you to be transformed in the highest way possible for your highest evolution.
Beautiful, absolutely amazing. The images are just incredible. You can just feel the power from them. So beautiful. You started to mention how she has worked with you in your life. Could you let us know a little bit more about that?
Yes, I will. So the first time that I went to Egypt, and this was actually not so long ago, but it feels like lifetimes ago, in January 2021, I went to that Sekhmet chapel at Karnak, and I stood before her, and there were just a few of us in the room. I was with a really small group there. And she said to me so clearly, she said, "Now you are free." And I thought, ooh, nice. Free. That's great. And I went out of there like so happy. And well, little did I know, she was really serious that she was going to just set me free from so many things. And so I had various different impossible scenarios in my life. I had a relationship that needed to end. I had a home that I needed to clear out and clean out and sell. I had different, things with my work that really needed to break down and change into something new. And she facilitated all of that quite rapidly within the next year after I came back from that trip. And it was really hard, actually. It was very intense. And even after that, there were further initiations and further falling away that I just never even saw coming. There were certain things that I knew I needed to change. And so there was this process of letting go of all of those, and seeing them, shift or fall away or whatever needed to happen. And then there was still more that I didn't even know about that needed to fall away and change. So it's just really fascinating now what has happened. And I'm, a little more than 2 years out now from that visit. The most incredible opportunities have come into my life since then. Some of them were during the destruction. A lot of them have been just this year, but it's just incredible what happens when we open up to these forces of nature that the ancient people were so deeply connected with and knew so intimately, because those forces of nature know us. I mean, they're already a part of us, right? We all have Sekhmet within us. And when we connect with something that powerful and that primordial, it connects us in with that which we don't even know we want and need, and will move mountains in our life to help us get there. And I feel, deeply on all levels, that's what happened for me. And what's interesting too is that actually 2 years is not that long of a time for a destruction and rebirth process, right? I do think these things are happening more quickly these days. And especially when we ask for support from these powerful forces, right? We can move through that dark night of the soul time more quickly and more, maybe even while it's challenging, with more of a big picture view in mind, right? And see more of the meaning in it rather than just feeling lost in that space. So it's really powerful, this new level of consciousness, new level of frequency that's coming in for us to embody. I think that's just such a huge invitation for this time. And again, Sekhmet will help you facilitate that.
As she did you, she kind of hit the go button, it sounds like.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm thinking, there was probably things that you already knew needed to go, like, how we get those little red flags and we're thinking, oh yeah, I'll get to that at some point. So she's kind of activated that and made that really start to happen. So how did she help you through that, through the change, through the chaos, I guess, of all of that happening?
Yes. Well, so for example, There's a house that I sold last year that my kids grew up in, that I lived in for 11 years, and it was such a sweet little house with beautiful woods behind and all the birds and all the trees. And oh gosh, I still miss that house. And, but I knew I had to leave the house. I knew that I needed to be more flexible in where I was living. I knew I couldn't be so tied down to one place. And it was quite a conflict within me, because with my kids, I have young daughters who are 9 and 12 right now. And for them, I wanted to keep the stability, but for my soul, I knew I needed to let go of the stability. So what happened was, that was January 2021 that I went to Egypt. In March 2021, I had mold testing done in my house. I don't know what gave me the inspiration to do that. And it turned out the house was full of mold. So I had no more excuses. I had no more, reasons to just put it off for another year, as I had been doing for many years. I had to sell the house. So we got everything together, cleaned it out, sold it. So it was interesting, because I really felt her presence so strongly through all of that, because I had been like 4 or 5 years knowing I needed to move, but somehow I just couldn't get it all together, didn't have time, didn't have, the resources to move everything or whatever, right? All the excuses. So she just removed all the excuses right away. So that's one example. Hopefully that's a good.
Yeah, that's a great example. It's kind of like giving you that fierceness energy of, you've got to just get up and do what you've got to do, despite all the comfort reasons why you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. You've also talked about, the connections with the planets and things like that, and Saturn is a big player here as well, I believe.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about how that can be related?
Yeah, absolutely. So going to the astrology for a moment, it's really important to note that throughout all of 2021 and 2022, so this energy, that's like what we moved in as soon as we moved out of the COVID year, 2020, right? Then we went into 2021 and 2022. And what was happening that was very strong during both of those years was that Saturn is the planet that rules structure, that rules hard work. And also Saturn will bring slowdown. Saturn will bring frustrations. Saturn will put us into a death cycle in order to let go and reorganize and recalibrate our lives. So he's kind of like representing the first stage of the destruction and then creation. And once we've released a lot, through the, working with Saturn, then usually what happens is there's a, Jupiter will come in some way, or Venus will come in some way, and then the rebuilding can begin. So what was happening in 2021 and 2022 that was really important was that Saturn and Uranus were continually squaring each other. Saturn was in Aquarius, Uranus was in Taurus, and they were squaring each other and just kept like moving a little bit out of the square and back to the square, a little bit out, a little bit back. And that was part of the energetics that made those years extremely difficult, extremely challenging for all of us. And Saturn in Aquarius is very strong. Saturn is in his rulership in Aquarius in traditional astrology. And so the forcefulness of it was shocking. Honestly, it was really shocking. And I know we were all going through this on our different levels. And so Saturn squaring Uranus, this is like the breakdown of everything that we've known to be stable, particularly with Uranus in Taurus, because Taurus is what we consider stable, what we think is going to stay the same, what we think we can count on. But with Uranus there squaring Saturn, it was just like break down all of that, right? So it's interesting because this destruction and then creation energy is very similar to how Saturn's been working with us over the last couple of years. I will share one more of my personal experiences to illustrate this again. So in 2022, I finally sold that house and I thought, okay, great. I've done what I needed to do. Check, I've checked that off the list. I've accomplished this. Yay. Now I can like ascend again and come out of the dark night of the soul. And what happened was I became very, very sick, which is odd because I'm generally a healthy person. I have my supplements. I'm very, very health conscious. And so what happened was that I got sick, and it was various different factors combining, including the mold that I had been living in for 11 years was a part of this equation. Lyme was a part of this. And for 3 months, I was very, very ill, and I could not even work. And this seems like lifetimes ago, but it was just last year, and it was shocking. It was really shocking. I couldn't even, I lost all of my energy. I didn't even have the strength to heat up a bowl of soup. I couldn't take care of my kids. I couldn't do my work. It was really shocking. And I was really scared. Saturn also can bring fear, because Saturn rules death. He's Father Time. So he brings us, images of death or experiences where we feel like we're going to die. And it's so that we can be recalibrated. But it's not fun. It's really not fun. So I didn't know, there was a while there where I didn't know if I'd ever be able to do the things I love, take care of my kids, run my amazing business, go for a walk. I couldn't walk farther than down the driveway to the mailbox and back for a couple of months. It was really scary. So I was just completely shocked by all of this, because I thought, okay, but I did the plan. I sold the house. That was the hardest thing I could have done in my whole life. And this, so it's just really fascinating how the energies are working with us in general right now. And again, through all of this, I felt Sekhmet guiding me. And I also felt Saturn guiding me very strongly. And I was frequently in conversations with Saturn and conversations with Sekhmet, these forces that can really bring in the darkness. And, there are times when we're way in that darkness and we can't see what's going to happen next. There's no way to even know what is possible or what we can count on or not. And I found that having these conversations with Saturn and conversations with Sekhmet brought these incredible big picture views, into me. It was so wild because I was very sick. I could, as I said, could barely walk. It was summertime. So I was just laying out on the grass in my mom's yard most of the time. That's all I could do. But I was like, I'm going to soak up the earth and the, sun energy here, and having these conversations with these forces. Right. And, they guided me through it. And it was like, there's no fast way out of this. There's no, happy, like you're just going to turn the corner tomorrow. It's not like that. You need to stop. And that was the message. I had been doing too much. I had been saying yes to everything, thinking I can handle all of it. And they had to just bring it all to a complete stop.
Yeah. And it's, there's very similar messages throughout this conference, of that point where you kind of get brought to your knees, where you need to surrender. Like, even you said yourself, you had this part that you thought, okay, I'm done. I'm good now. I'm ready to get back into it. And it's like, we actually need you to go another level where you got nothing. You can't go anywhere or do anything. And that's the thing. It does reflect that scary part where you have to get brought down to your knees to say, I surrender. I don't know what's going on. And for that grace to enter, and those powerful energies sound amazing. So interesting. I love these stories. Thank you for sharing that. Because it's really powerful. It helps people to connect so well with that similar stories. I'm curious, what would be some of the most important messages or lessons that Sekhmet could really teach us?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the biggest one and the hardest one is don't fear the darkness. Because the darkness is the space from which all things are birthed, right? If we think of the black holes in the universe, right? If we think of the deep, deep winter before we see any sign of spring, right? And it feels like spring will never get here. In those moments, those are the moments when everything is possible. And that was some of what I started, the messages I started receiving in that time when I was just literally flat on my back and couldn't tell what was happening next. It was like, don't worry about what's happening next. Just know that all things are possible from this moment. Right. And another one is one that I put on the slide, which is things are only impossible until they're not. And that's really important because I think we get, we live our lives, and in each of our lives, we run up against situations that just, it's been impossible for the last 10 years or the last 50 years or whatever. It hasn't moved. And I think it's really important to know that we can shift our perspective at any time, right? We can choose to claim that maybe this has been impossible for the last 25 years. And I'm claiming that I'm going to find a new way, right? And I'm going to call in my guides, and we're going to clear a new path so that it won't be impossible anymore. There's really great power in that. And again, we're in this time when the shifts can happen so rapidly. We really do have this power to create those changes where we couldn't before. Couldn't do it for, the last 10 or years or 5 years or even 2 years. But now new possibilities are truly becoming available, right? So this idea of things are only impossible until they are not, it's big. And I think the third one, and the last one I'll say for now, is to tap into your fierceness, tap into your anger, tap into the emotions that you maybe have tried not to feel. Because these emotions that we push down are the emotions that are not acceptable by society's standards, which are completely skewed and ridiculous. These emotions are telling us what our body knows, what our heart knows, but our mind has not become conscious of yet. There was a time while I was really sick that I just had days and days of intense anger, and I didn't even know what the anger was about. I couldn't even tell. I was just so angry, and I decided the only thing I could do was like stomp and kick and scream and trying not to scare anybody around me, I was like, I have to express this and let it out. And I still don't even know fully what I was releasing, but something shifted, something happened there. So just by turning toward the darkness and asking it what it wants for us, how do you want me to evolve? The main questions I was asking Saturn and Sekhmet was, what are the lessons you want me to learn? Right? How can I proceed through this in the best way possible? And the answers were incredible. So it's like turn toward the darkness, turn toward the anger and the difficult emotions, because the keys to your healing are in there, and all possibilities are in there.
Beautiful. I love that. And it's basically, as you said, the exact opposite of what we're taught, how we're raised.
Exactly. Yeah.
What society says.
You have to let go of all those norms, rules, and regulations, because they're
clearly they're not working, right? No.
Yeah.
It would be perfect timing if there would be any kind of, we had a little space for journey.
I would love to lead a journey.
Yeah, it'll be just perfect for the way the conversation has gone. It'd be nice to finish with one.
Absolutely. And actually, I'll just share an image of Sekhmet again, because that will be helpful in the journey. We'll leave this one up.
Yes.
She's so powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I invite everybody to get comfortable in your space, and you can choose if you would want to close your eyes or gaze into the eyes of Sekhmet here, this powerful living statue where even when she's just a photo, you can still feel her so strongly. And so just get comfortable where you are. And let's take a deep breath into the heart, and even place your hand on your heart so you feel that breath coming in, and really be aware that you're breathing in the oxygen, the sunlight, all the powerful elements of creation. And as you breathe out, just be aware of letting your awareness drop out of the mind and into the heart, into this deeper place in the center of your being, where the most profound wisdom is held, in your heart center. Let's take one more deep breath in, breathing in the oxygen, the sunlight, all the powerful forces of nature. And breathing out, releasing, relaxing, dropping into your center even more. And I invite you to imagine yourself standing before the door of the Sekhmet chapel at Karnak Temple in Egypt. Feel the hot Egyptian sun shining on your face. And look at this powerful, very tall wooden door before you. And the guard is there at the door. The guard opens the door for you, and you step inside. And your eyes have to gradually adjust to the light because it's very dark inside the chapel. And as you find your way to the Sekhmet statue, you feel her power as you are approaching her. And so you find a place to stand just in front of her where you can gaze deeply into her eyes. And you can feel her gazing back at you. Her power, her strength, her fierceness from thousands and thousands of years ago, still so alive today. So gaze into her eyes now. And you can ask her any question that you wish. Ask her your most impossible question. And just listen to hear her answer. Once you've received that answer from her, lean in a little bit closer. She has one more very important message for you today. But listen very carefully with your heart. And once you receive that message, see if there is a gift or an offering that you'd like to leave here at her feet in heartfelt gratitude for this wisdom that she has shared with you today. And feel how she receives this gift, this offering. Know that it is deeply meaningful to her. And that she will guide and assist you going forward from this moment. So now you can turn and walk back toward the giant wooden door, back out into the sunlight. The guard closes the door behind you. And already you feel the shifts and the transformation beginning to occur. And as you look up into the sunlight, feel all the forces of the universe conspiring to guide and support you at every step on your journey. And now let's slowly come back into the body. So taking a deep breath once again into your heart, filling up all the way with the miraculous nature of the light around you. Breathing out one more time, coming back fully present into this moment. You can wiggle your fingers and toes a little bit. When you feel ready, open your eyes. Welcome back.
Oh, beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Just even to allow people to have that experience of feeling that energy and being able to visit her like that. Incredible.
So powerful.
Coming back to the body is sometimes a bit hard, isn't it?
Yes, I felt that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
yeah, I recommend everybody just take the time you need to ground and do a little journaling. It's always helpful to come back and write down whatever insights you got, and it helps you to settle back in.
Yeah, beautiful. Good idea. Yeah, it's always good to journal. Well, thank you so much. I think we've done a great journey around her energy and definitely diving into that dark night of the soul territory and not only how important it is to face the stuff that we don't want to face, but also that you're not alone, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. To have all these energies to support us.
Yeah.
And to learn from.
That's really important. Thank you for just speaking that. There was, for the first 30 years of my life, I was just plagued with depression, anxiety, panic attacks. And it was so interesting that around the time that I was having my awakening and I was coming into the realization of all of these, these greater forces and this bigger plan, I had a vision one day where I realized I was surrounded by all of these beings and they were all here for my support, And from that day, I didn't feel alone anymore. And it really shifted everything in my life. So, that's true for all of us. We have a council around us, supporting, protecting, helping. And it is so important to remember that. It can really, really change everything to come into that full awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm conscious of the time. I think we could definitely talk about this for a long time, but I am conscious of the time and I definitely want to get to your free gift that you have for everyone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my free gift is called Awaken Your Connection with Ancient Egypt, Rediscover Your Magic from Long Ago. And so this is a really beautiful video workshop that I created that you are welcome to explore, and you will learn about other Egyptian Neteru or deities, including Osiris, who represents the Duat, which is the underworld, but it's not the underworld like we think of it. It actually, the underworld or the Duat in ancient Egypt was all of the heavens, right? And so I have a lot of mythology that I'll share with you that's very powerful. And you'll also learn about the goddess Ma'at, who represents harmony and truth and balance and natural order and cosmic law. So it's a really powerful presentation that I hope you will deeply enjoy.
Oh, fabulous. It sounds really good. And of course, what other programs and services, how can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have all kinds of new things that are about to come out and haven't been announced yet. So I'll just send you to my website, which is wearesacredplanet.com, and also the Sacred Planet YouTube channel. And if you, get the free gift or visit my website and get a free gift from there, you'll be on notice to get, any new announcements as they're coming out, because I have some really big, new, exciting things coming up. And I do lead tours to Egypt annually now. I work with Patricia Alyan Lehman. She and I are co-leading these tours. She is an absolutely magical, incredible being. And so she and I just have so much fun and explore these ancient places together. So our next tour coming up will be in January, February 2024. That will be posted on my website as well. So check that out if you're interested in coming to see Sekhmet in person, and lots of other good, exciting things coming up. So I can't wait to share that with everybody.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too. I'm a bit of a fan of Jocelyn. I highly recommend that you sign up for your website and your information. You've always got something new and exciting happening. So highly recommend. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a fabulous conversation. I'm absolutely positive that there'll be people out there resonating with your message and really feeling the energy of that journey as well. Yeah, I'm so appreciative.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be a part of your event. I just love the topic that you're exploring here. I can't wait to check out the other interviews as well. This is really amazing and much needed information that you're bringing to the world. So thank you for all that you're doing and putting together.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone listening. And yeah, we'll see you in the next session. Thanks, Jocelyn.